Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. I've got Rob Ruscher here on the call with us. And what Rob and I have done is actually collaborated to make a online course that Rob has worked very diligently on recently that helps people to look better on camera. Now, if you want proof of that, look at Rob and look at me, and you can already see a difference. And here's the funny part: I thought I looked pretty good on camera. I've got some fancy equipment, DSLR, and some lighting and things, and yet clearly there's still a difference between our two shots. What Rob has so kindly done is put together a course on how you can look like him using equipment that you already have. And he's actually made that available for free inside the first gen community. So, Rob, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, of course, of course. No, I appreciate it. It was, for the first gen, I think, to be honest, I don't think it would have been done if it wasn't you and the group. One, the support, and then two, just knowing, okay, if worst case, if this doesn't work out, I think that's probably the biggest fear when
Yeah.
building a course is just like, oh, it's gonna suck and no one's gonna listen to it or watch it or buy it. So at least it's like, oh, okay, I have like trusted members who are also my target audience. That can give me feedback and honest feedback and build it from there. So
Yeah, that's a really good point and very valuable. I think if you're in the first gen community and you've thought about doing a course before, like what better place to do kind of a limited release than right here inside the community with people that you trust and that you know you can get some honest feedback on, and then maybe tweak it if needed before sending it out there to the rest of the world, which we know you plan on doing here shortly.
yeah, and I think also groups like this is great to share those ideas, and especially this group and some of the friends I've already made here. Because it's also I need them in a way when you're
Mhm.
releasing a new course, especially being your first one. There's no greater tool than having testimonials. So, what's a better way than say, hey, everyone, here's a free course. And if it works and you like it, I'd love to know. Better yet, if you didn't like it, tell me no so we can see where to fix and tweak it. And then, when I release it, it'll be a much better product. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, good deal. So, what we're going to talk about for a minute is we're going to break down a couple aspects of this course so that you within the first gen community can benefit from this. So, for starters, Rob, what's in it for a first gen entrepreneur? I know I touched on it, but I'd love to hear it in your words. Like, why is this worth their time, in your opinion, for them to go through this course?
awesome. Well, we might have to put a timer on there so I don't go on too much because I am really passionate about it and just from what I've seen from setting up and taking the time in my home office. But the first thing is I think everyone that I've talked to in the group at one point or another ends up in front of camera. So
Hmm.
that's whether you want to start a video podcast and start making content from that. That's if you're on a sales call, right? That's if you're
Right.
in a chat like we are now. And even a practical example, when I join a demo or a webinar as a customer just to check out software or what's what,
Hmm.
the conversation always turns to how do you look that good? What's going
Right.
on? What's this and that? And the value to me in that is like, that's just a new networking connection. That's someone that like now I'm chatting with separately and
Right.
building and building a relationship with. So there's a spider web effect to it, and I didn't think of this when I first started this and helping professionals on camera, but man, it just gives you such an easy way for people to reach out to you. Like, what an easier way to look great and have a whole background set up for someone to be like, hey, that's really cool.
Right. Yeah, and I think of it too. Let's go pre-COVID when everybody was in person all the time. If you have an attorney or a banker or anybody who's considered a professional, how would you feel about them if they showed up in sweatpants? It's kind of like, no, something doesn't add up here. Well, in the digital world, a lot of us are selling services that oftentimes are kind of high ticket offers, right? Like you want me to spend 1,000, 5,000, $10,000 with you, and yet you look like junk on camera. Like that's just not a good look. But when you've taken the time to get your setup correct and you're looking the way you do right now, Rob, it's like, okay, this guy's serious. He's a professional. So I think that The value of that is probably one of those things that's really hard to quantify, but I think we all agree that it's there for sure.
Yeah, and one more thing I'll add, and this is something again that I wasn't expecting to hear, but everyone I've helped with, the one constant thing I get back is like the confidence I have now
Mm,
because I'm not worried what's behind me. I feel so much more confident because when the sun goes down, I don't look like a dark silhouette.
right.
And that was really cool because as much as I've worked on huge productions and gotten all these awards, for some reason nothing feels better than someone texting me and saying, "Hey, I'm getting on camera so much more now because you helped me," or I am being on camera more at work and I'm getting more opportunities. I'm like, and now I want to do more outside of my job. I want to build a personal brand. So to me, that just gets me like fired up. I'm like, okay, so what else can I do to keep getting you to that next level? So,
That's
um,
awesome. Yeah, and
yeah,
if you have that confidence, then confidence, as we all know, has an effect on your ability to market and sell yourself. Like people can
yeah,
sense that confidence. So
yeah,
definitely a lot of good reasons to just invest the time into not only the course but taking action. So let's talk about that for a second too. How much content are we talking about here? How long does it take to actually go through the course approximately?
yeah. If you were just to watch the whole course in a single timeline, it's like a little less than an hour.
Okay.
Um, but I would say if you're the way I set it up, also, I'll come back to the complete because I think this is important. I set up the course in a certain order,
Mm,
in the order that I like to do things because it's the most important. And if the other things aren't there, you're gonna have to go back and do it again. So, and I say that because, like, let's say you're in the first gen group and you have a call in a couple hours, go in there and just click, just start watching through because I guarantee you will at least learn a few things to get you and then you can come back. So if you are just trying to, watch it and get through, you have a big podcast the next day or something. I think in one day you can get through the course and get yourself in a better spot. But if I were you, I would probably spread that out and just take, a day to do the first module, get your framing and the lighting and just figure out your space. And then deal with, or I'm sorry, the first is actually location scout, I call it. So that's actually just setting up your office. You probably just set the computer down, put your wherever it looked like the biggest in the room, didn't really think, is this the best spot for filming? So we kind of go back, take a look at that first. Then I would come back the next day and deal with like finalizing your framing and lighting. And then I would do audio as its own day. And that's probably the most intensive one. I know this was a basics course, but as I was going through it, I was just like, oh, but this little
mm.
like nugget of knowledge will really help. So the sound actually breaks down to 3 different videos or 2
Okay.
different videos. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So maybe if you, instead of trying to blitz it all in one day, but just chop it up and, over the course of say a week or so, you
Hmm.
can find where your whole setup, people will noticeably be able to tell a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So last question then for you. This course, again, you've been so kind as to give this away, quote unquote, as part of just being a member of the first gen community. So that's so awesome. And I think it's going to take a lot of people as far as they want or need to go. But then kind of how far does it take you? And if someone wants to go further than that, what does that look like?
Yeah. And it kind of depends on where you're at now. I'm a big believer. I know everyone says the equipment doesn't matter, blah blah. I've actually never believed that in my entire career. I've always felt like the tools are there for a reason, and
Right.
not only getting the right tool does it get me there quicker and easier, it makes it all look better. So
Right.
I say that because if you're just using your webcam off of your laptop, at a minimum, you're going to want to buy a microphone. I don't think you need to buy like $400. There's like
Mhm.
$30 ones on Amazon, but that's just to be said. Just understand that there are some tech limitations to look like this. It's not just because I'm so good at what I do. There's some money involved with it. But by the end of this course, most importantly, beyond anything, my goal is that you know how to control your image. I want you, it's not about looking like a Hollywood movie star. I just want
Mhm.
you to have the tools and knowledge to look and sound the way you want. So if you want cool, colorful lights and you want something moody, we'll get there and show you. If you just need this nice corporate look, we go over that. So the tools will always be changing, but it's funny that in the 15 years I've been a cinematographer, the way I use the tools haven't really changed much. I've gotten better at things, but so I think at the end of the day, you're going to be properly framed. You're going to look good as you can. Again, sometimes you have to just buy that light. It's just how it is.
Right.
That's
Right.
technology. We have to expose the sensor here. But ideally, you will be able to have, if you have the tools you need, you'll be able to look great. And with cameras and tech, there's so many details and little avenues to go. But I think this will help you get there and definitely improve from where you're at today.
Well, and I can testify personally, like I've already taken the first few lessons in this. I haven't implemented any of the changes yet, other than making my diagram that I showed you. But just learning some fundamentals, like you do a really good job of explaining the way lighting works and the way positioning works, and just putting in layman's terms even the differences between microphone. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. Like you don't need to be a tech geek to understand the concepts that you're explaining. You do a really good job of that. But then if somebody wants to go, they run up into a limitation with the equipment that they have, or they need to be able to consult with you. Like, is that an option as well?
Yeah, definitely. So, and I think you're a perfect example, Andrew. So I think we'll just keep picking on you. But you're right. You do look great, and you have great
Thank
gear.
you.
And when
I
the
appreciate
course
that.
is done, I think you'll be like really happy with how you're sounding, and like you said, just understand the lighting. But for someone like you, I would say, hey, maybe we should do a 30-minute call a week after you're done, because with your camera, we could just do this customized. Let's just focus on your camera settings, because I know you sound great. You have the room, you have the lighting set up, but let's just see what happens if we spend 20 minutes dialing in that camera setting. And then let me take a look at your lighting and see if I can add a few things here and there.
Yeah.
So I
That
would say that would almost get you from the indie filmmaker look, enough to be professional and sound good and still be a little better than everyone else. But if you want that final pop, that crispness, I think either like a 30-minute to an hour just to really dial everything in. And then also a big part of what I like to do is not only the tools I use, but how I use them. I think the workflow is very important. I want you to be able to, as soon as you get off this call, go do your work, do everything else, write your blogs, the newsletters, take any calls else you need, and then turn back over and start recording that video content, hop on that video podcast, that live stream, and you don't have to take that hour to get it all set up.
right. Yeah. Well, and I can't think of many things where you can spend a relatively small amount of time, 30 minutes, an hour, to get this fine tuned with an expert on the other end, and then literally use it all day, every day. I mean, if you work from home, you're on camera, you're on Zoom, that's just gonna pay dividends over and over again. So
Yeah. And
super
I think
valuable.
also when you look at investments, just because I've done it so long, I really have a handle on what makes the difference or not. So if you do this course and we do a 30 or an hour consulting session, on top of whatever we will focus on that I can make sure I perfect for you, I will be able to then in a couple days give you an email and say, hey, here's what I would do gear wise. It's not for today, it's not for tomorrow, but 3 months, 6 months, next year, if you're going to continue on this journey, here's what I would look to get. And then even, a lot of times that can be scary to people, but a lot of times we're not talking even $5,000. It's like, if you want the top of the line microphone for being on camera, like the microphone you have there is
Mhm.
$400. And yeah, that's a lot, but that's literally the Rolls Royce of microphones for, these kind
Right.
of on camera things. So I think once people see that, it becomes like, oh, okay, so like I'll keep doing this. And then, if I hit my goals, maybe next quarter, this additional income from being on camera, now I can do the camera. Cool. And then, in a year, you could be paying off the equipment. I always look
Right.
at it, the investment, what equipment is bringing in money and stuff. And then, within a year, you could be on your way.
You're set. Yeah. Well, and I imagine too, consulting with you on this kind of stuff, you'll also know what order to do these things in.
Hmm.
Which one's going to give you the most bang for your buck early on. So,
And the
well,
secret
Rob,
is, I'll give one tip away, Andrew. I just want to
okay,
give a freebie. It's always audio. It's always audio. I'm the
start with that.
biggest video fanatic anywhere. I'm a weirdo who listens to movies on mute so I can study the images. But trust me, if you're listening to this right now, you don't have time to take the course, you need to do something, focus on your audio. As long as people can hear you clearly, you can add whatever text and overlays on your video, and people aren't always watching it anyways. Just clearly make sure that people can clearly hear you.
That's
So
got
I'll
to
leave,
be the
I'll leave you with that
foundation.
one.
Yeah, nice. All right, cool. Well, again, Rob, thank you so much. I'll go ahead and embed this in here in the video as well. Rob has his own link tree. The reason we went with Linktree is because he's got a bunch of different resources that he's making available to people. Not just how you can get in touch with him, but also these courses that he's building and some other good, useful resources. So if you see this, I'll include that in the link that we post inside the community, or if you're watching it outside the community, you can go to that Linktree link down below, get in touch with Rob that way. So again, Rob, thanks again, man. Really means a lot that you put so much effort in and making this available to your fellow first gens. I know they'll all appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, Andrew.
All right, buddy. See you soon.
See ya.